Hi guys, we love you. Um, I'm going to talk about a few things on the Chris Watts case and the Nicole. Um, as we see, there is some rumors going around that Nicole Kissinger has a support group. Okay, there's going to be people that's going to support her because they believe that she had nothing to do with it, and she doesn't deserve what she's getting or the punishment that she's getting, the backlash. And her not being able to live a life. She's probably getting harassed and everything like that, and she has to move out of her apartment that she's in, that one bedroom apartment. And um, as we know, she's getting help with therapy and all this harassment, how to deal with it. And she also has lawyered up with an attorney that deals with he deals with harassment kind of thing, harassment lawsuits, that kind of lawyer, you know, defamation of character. Is she trying to sue people that talks about her in a bad light? Is she trying not to get sued by anybody in a civil suit if possible? I doubt that's impossible, but you never know. Um, so she too has lawyered up. So, but somebody has to pay for this lawyer for the services that he's doing. So anyway, there's it's kind of like a GoFundMe set up, and there it seems to be a lot of money going into it because she too has a lot of supporters, like I said, and that she has moved out of her old address. Well, guys, wouldn't you? I'd run. Maybe I would go to another state or something. But I guess you just can't get up and go. You gotta face the music. And then, her parents live around there and stuff like that. She doesn't want to move too far away from her father, I guess, you know. And her father had that account to the oil company, and I guess he might not be working there neither because they canceled their account. So, everybody around her is losing out, aren't they? Some way or the other. She has brought shame down on the whole family. Once you get involved and you state your name and a number, you know what I mean? You're on the list, the witness list, and you're going to be harassed some way or the other, in a good way or a bad way. But as we know, a lot of people differ from her involvement. Now, I like to know, and this is only a discussion, folks. I just want your opinions and thoughts on her involvement, or Chris and them having discussions about any anything, because as we know, they had many phone calls, hours and hours. But you know what? Nicole can't tell you what they said because you know she just can't tell you what um they all said. What are you going to talk about, the same old thing all day long? There's plenty you can talk about and you can remember. People remember what you say, especially in the beginning, because they're listening to every word you say. You both are. So, uh, did she put thoughts into the head of Chris Watts? Like, um, you're married. You're married. And another one. I have plenty of men calling me for dates. Mm-hmm. Plenty of men calling me for dates. Well, she sure knows a lot of men, doesn't she? She must get on a website or something because, she works where she works. Well, did. And there's no other men after her at a job. So how is she getting all these dates, I'd like to know. Well, what do you guys think? If she's not going out to the bars and she's not on a dating site of some kind, how is she getting all these dates? So was that just her saying that? And of course her friend Jim that came over to stay, she threw that in his face and twisted it. You know, we don't know what she said exactly. But anyway, when she said that, Chris got upset about that. He was like a jealous man because you know what, he shouldn't have been jealous because he's a married man at this time we're talking about. And they're both she's going on dates with other guys and stuff like that. She's cheating on Chris too, in a way, if you know what I mean. Only because they are now boyfriend and girlfriend. The mistress. She's still the mistress, but they're dating like they're girlfriend and boyfriend. So, you know, so if she says, she never said, I'm done with you. We are not boyfriend and girlfriend. I'm not the mistress until you get out of that house. She was still up to the day, to Monday to Tuesday, still talking to him. Like, oh yeah. But she was still talking to him like she was the girlfriend up to that Sunday night. That's for sure. That is for sure. That's a fact. So why put thoughts in his head about to push him to get divorced by saying, well, I've got dates and I got plenty of men calling me up. That just sounds like a trigger to me. I mean, you shouldn't go out and kill your wife and your family. I'm not saying that, but that's how it ended up. So did she put thoughts into his head? Because his pea brain, he's only thinking with one head, isn't he? Guys, we know what that is. And she did tell him, I love you. She told him several times. And she said she only said it a few times, but who knows how many times she said it. Oh, yeah. She said, oh, but he told me I love you a lot more than I told him. Yeah, that's what she says. That's just my opinion. That's what she says because that's a fact. Um, she gave him good sex, and he gave her good sex because she said so. That's a fact. Um, she was showing him a different life. They were enjoying the single life. Yeah. So, he was having a good time while his wife was away. Yes. Things that he couldn't do before. Um, and he was enjoying it. But okay, he was enjoying it. But that doesn't mean you go kill your wife and that. Sometimes it's good to get away and do stuff, get it out your system. You know, these things will only last for so long. So just get that out your system. And they were camping out in a tight space, all cuddly and stuff like that. And of course, taking pictures of their tent. She also was encouraging him, helping him. She was going out of her way to find an apartment for him. Like she said, where do you want to live? What neighborhood do you want? What price range do you want? She was really going out of her way to help him, like he couldn't do it himself. Well, he wasn't doing it himself, was he? Did he ever make one appointment to go look at one apartment or a home to live? He had never done it. There's no signs, there's no information, there's no texts, there's no phone calls of him even trying to find an apartment. Some of it was just talk, but he hadn't once called up an apartment. And even if Chris said to her, "Oh yeah, Brighton, I've got that in mind. I'd like to live near Brighton." But that thought was in his head. And that's because his wife put that in his head. Because Shannon stated in one of her texts about moving to Brighton, finding a home there. And Shannon was talking about moving her stuff and packing up, which that's a fact. Brighton came in, but Chris said Brighton too. Um, but also that thought was put in his head by his wife. And then another comment this Nicole had made about having a family, because they asked you, did she doesn't want his kids, and she wants her own life. She don't want anybody else's kids, really, does she? She kind of wants her own family. She stated that, I want my own family. He's already had his life and got his kids. He's already done that, but I haven't, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean, guys? Oh, yeah. She wants her own family. Well, that's another trigger, isn't it? Uh, Making statements like that. And I'm only saying that because we know what the outcome was. I mean, not everybody would do that, but this was the outcome. Everybody is gone and buried. They um they had planned vacations together. In this Aspen trip where Chris said him and his wife were gonna go the following week or something like that. After she got back from Arizona. But didn't we hear that Shannon was going to have an agenda reveal the following weekend? But didn't Chris and her plan an Aspen trip that weekend? Well, I'm getting a bit confused on that part if you can comment below. He made an Aspen trip. I guess it was just going to be for the weekend for them to chat and be alone, be lovey-dovey, him and Shannon. So she did cancel the agenda, and people can't understand why she canceled it, because there is a number of texts that he don't want to be with me, he wants to be with me. We're gonna chat. We're not gonna chat. Okay, he's done with me. Oh, I'm gonna talk to him. We're gonna, you know, and then the Aspen trip. So that was all getting very mixed up and very confusing. Because one minute he's saying this and one minute she's saying that. So that might have been a reason why they canceled the agenda party, because she said she's going to start putting her family first. That means her husband and her kids, not her mother, not his parents, not her parents, and none of her friends. No Thrive, no Lavelle, nobody, just the pyramid that she put on a pedestal. She said her husband and her kids come first. And that's how she stated it. So maybe their frame of mind was, okay, I haven't done that for a long time. I've neglected them by being on the phone all the time, and I could have been doing other stuff. Maybe work can back off. That was at the stage that she was at in her mind to save her marriage. And of course, Chris was kind of going along with it because he was giving her mixed signals. As we know, they're playing a mind game here. You know, People say what a lovely man he was and what a lovely woman she was. But in their marriage, look how bad it was. You know, he's saying all these nasty things to her. So people are saying the neighbors, when they heard them yelling, they only could hear Chris's voice yelling a lot. And they couldn't understand why she hadn't left him long ago. But they don't really know what the argument about, what it was about. Did they hear word for word or they just heard yelling? You know, when you have a lot of yelling in the home, you make your kids nervous. You know, this is why when I see kids withdrawing from something like acting up a little bit is because they are hearing all these arguments against their parents and stuff, and hearing all these bad words coming out of their mouth. And they're going to start repeating, and they're going to start acting the same way because they are not being corrected properly. When this happens, they hear it, and they keep hearing it, and they start getting scared, like little kids do. But they will act on it, and they will start repeating stuff because that's just how kids are. And they get nervous and afraid. And Chris stated one time that his kids were starting to repeat what the mother said. And he tells them, please don't say these things. Don't say that to me. He did state that for a fact. That could have been a lie, but that could have been the truth too. I mean, he did state like that. So if he felt like he was getting put down with mean words and stuff, getting his feelings hurt, he also felt betrayed by his kids because they were doing the same thing to him in his little pea brain. But they are children, so you cannot take that to heart. But as I think that Chris did, I mean, it's in his thoughts. These little things are in his thoughts. And if he wasn't liking his wife, he started not liking his children too, in the same way, for disrespecting him. Now, guys, I'm just having my opinion on saying that. I'm just saying maybe I'm trying to get to the root what makes a person hate their kids and do a disgusting thing. So guys, this is just my opinion, and you can have yours too on in the discussion and comment. These are just my thoughts. That's what's going on in his head. So as he's talking to the detectives in his interviews, and this, they're trying to, they don't believe a word he says, obviously, but he's turning into a little kid. you know his demeanor, his voice, and the things he says. It's just like he's turned into a little child, like a naughty boy that's been put in the corner, like, no, I didn't do it, Mom, I didn't do it, no, it wasn't me. Like they say, he's turning into a little kid, backed into a corner. These kids tell these little white lies, and he was telling more than white lies. And they need to get to the truth. So they start talking and mixing their words and starting to confuse the man because, as we know, he's very easily confused and very easily led. So they knew what kind of guy they were dealing with. And it wasn't going to take much to break this man. Oh no. Oh no, it wasn't going to take much. And they knew it because they're professionals. They've done this before. It's not their first rodeo. So, but they just can't believe that they're getting to this man so easy. This man's talking. He's talking, he not once asked for a lawyer. So if you don't ask for a lawyer, they're going to keep questioning you. And you don't have to talk. You don't have to say nothing until you get a lawyer, as we know. But this man's not all in the head, you know what I mean? And I think his conscience. He does have a conscience because, as we know, he talked. He just needed to let it out, and they could see that this man wanted to let it out. But anyway, they put thoughts in his head. And this man, put any thought into his head, he kind of runs with it. Do you know what I mean? He runs with it. So his little pea brain is thinking, is ticking. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. And the way he was talking in his interviews is like blah, blah, blah. I mean, you would never thought that he had done in his head. We didn't know at that time, but he knew that what he had done and where he put them kids. He had known that all the time, but he wasn't bothered a bit because he thought he was just going to answer a few questions and go home and go order a pizza, something like that. He thought he was going home to a nice warm bed, to his own comforts, and get on the phone, start FaceTiming. He thought he was going home to do all those stuff in his little head. But anyway, the detectives put thoughts in his head. Next minute, his dad's been in town, been picked up, been brought to the police station, probably been asked a few questions, and then was let in when the right time, and let in to talk to his son. Then his son starts telling his dad, and then he lets loose and says, he said it in kind of a weird way though, but I don't know how this guy didn't know he was being videotaped. Because don't the detectives tell you you are being videotaped and we have monitors in this room? Well, I don't know if they told him that, but you would know that they have videotapes and being taped, wouldn't you? You'd know that. Anybody else would know that anyway, but he's like a kid. He don't know nothing. Well, he tells his dad that he smothered, and then in another word he said strangled, but he did say smothered. She smothered the kids, and I went into a rage, Dad, and I killed her. But he wasn't really that disgusted about it, was he? No, because he didn't like his wife. He had hatred for her at this time. Um, he did, and he must have had hate for his children to do the things he did. And if it was really true, why didn't you call 911 and leave? Just call 911. It doesn't matter. You're going down either way. So I don't know if that was such a planned thing. I really don't. But anyway, your thoughts on that one, guys. But it sure didn't take much to get thoughts into his head and run with it. Easily lied. He can easily lie, but he's easily led. And I don't think was a well planned out murders. Murders as such, because as we all know, Chris Watts could not use his work truck. It has GPS tracking on it. By the time you put the key in, it's starting to GPS, and it knows your location, and it tracks every minute that engine is running or the key is put in the ignition. And every mile on this truck has to be accounted for. Every mile. And as they know, you go from A to B, from your home to your job. That's all the miles you should do, and around the work site. Get to the office, get to the work sites, and all that and the other. So there's no way that Chris could ever use that truck to take the bodies somewhere else and put them in the middle of nowhere. And he didn't have time. And he couldn't call off work. Well, maybe he could have called off work, but he didn't. He didn't call off work. He'd already committed himself, you see, on that Friday. He'd already committed himself to do that job Monday morning. So he's the type of person, when he committed to something and he's already said he's going to do it, he couldn't call up and say no, because he's that type of guy. So now he's a bit stuck here. So I'm thinking this couldn't have been a very planned out thing, because she's such a busy woman, and he knew how busy she was going to be. People's going to be around, people's calling. She's got a doctor's appointment. She's got all kinds of things going on that morning and that week. So that's what makes me think it's not planned out, ahead of time. Because he could have used the Alexis, couldn't he? If he was planning on doing it, you plan it on a day where you could use the Lexus and go somewhere and come back and then dump the Lexus somewhere, wipe off fingerprints, or something like that, and wipe out your miles on the truck, stuff like that. And I say wipe out your miles on the train. Not like I'm committed murder or anything, but when I'm going on a journey, I mean, I've traveled a lot and used my car. I've just been down to a couple of months ago in August. I went down to from Wisconsin and drove through about 8 different states. I took the long road around. Me and my son and my grandson and his girlfriend decided for about 5 days a week to go down to Augusta, Georgia, go through Atlanta, go through different states and go to North Carolina. I went to North Carolina, the Carolinas, and they also drove from there and went down to Savannah, down to the ocean, um, Myrtle Beach, and drove back through all these states. And I like to, you know, put the miles, see how many miles I did. So, I will change that. So that's why I always remember when I'm going on long trips to do that. Like I've been up to the Dakotas, Rapid City, where I used to live. I used to live near Rapid City in South Dakota. I had a best friend that I met while in the 80s. I met her and have kept in touch, but she doesn't live there anymore, but her parents do. They live up near Mount Rushmore, um, and they had horses and stuff like that. And she was going up there to visit her friends. I mean, I visited her in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, when she moved there to work in the hospital. But now she lives um, Pennsylvania now. So I've drove down to Pennsylvania, and she's come up to Wisconsin to visit me and stuff like that. So I've been, and then we drove to um, the falls, Niagara Falls, and stuff like that. So I do like to drive my car and see the United States of America. So I have been to a lot of states, but some of them I've flown to, I haven't drove. So, all this about thinking out where you could put your wife and children. Could you could you have got rid of him in such a more disgusting manner? Hmm. And then the detectives, they like asked him, when they found out everything, a different interview. Um, did you put them in the tanks? And how did you get them in the tanks? Was it hard? All that information. And they said, did you put them kids in there alive? And he goes, oh my God, for goodness sake, no, no, no. Like that. Like that's really disgusting to put them in there while they're alive. But my God, I just hope they wasn't. But he says they were not. Definitely they were dead. Definitely. That's what he says. But anyway, I would not even like to think about that. But I'm sure they were. Um, so about the planned out murder, you guys can comment. That wasn't a very good planned out murder, was it? To get away with. I mean, it was stupid. It's stupid. I mean, we didn't want them gone. Do you know what I mean? It's the murders, but he's already murdered them. But we'd like to know the facts why. Do you know what drove you to do that? Some seemingly normal person, which you both portrayed to be for many months before this. Maybe the last few weeks they weren't getting on. But I like to see that, like I said before in a different video, I like to see these texts and their pattern of life, way before that. See see how they were getting on if they had all these problems before, as with getting separated and he's not loving me, he's not holding me, because Shanann did state everything was fine before she got pregnant. Everything was fine. That's one of her comments that she made in a text or a phone call to her friends, either or, that everything was fine. So this is why we think it's the girlfriend that put thoughts in his head, maybe edged him on a bit, with words. And we don't even know if this relationship was going to last or not. But the way she's talking and all this information that's come out, it sounds like she was planning planning it to be with him to the future, and that's all we know, because we know damn well she said this and she said that in different interviews. She has said a lot, but in different interviews and on the phone and in Texas. Um, so, and then the way Chris talked, like, these are just some things that he has said, you know. Well, this is what I'm going to say, what he's done. Um, why'd you get on the news and speak in past tense? Because we know he did. This is what gave him away right from the get go. Never get on the news. Never get on the news. Um, Lawyer up, because always the husband, the boyfriend, whoever is close to them will be number one suspect right off the bat. And he's already a suspect even before he spoke to the press anyway. They'd already got his number and were sussing him out. And then, the press was asking him stupid questions. I really do think the press was asking him stupid questions. Like, you know how they were. I was thinking, this sounds like amateur news crew. Talk about the t-shirt. And you got him to talk about a t-shirt. And when he talked about the t-shirt, he started acting like a little kid. I like my shirts. My wife buys my shirts. He's starting to act like an imbecile. How dumb is that? Why didn't you say, enough of my t-shirt? I don't care. I'm talking about my wife here and my kids. I'm trying to get them out. But as we know, the press were there to keep him talking. Just talk about any bullshit. Just keep him talking. That's a good part. But it wasn't a very good interview by the press anyway, or any of them, whoever was interviewing him, because apparently it's kind of three different news crews, or I don't know how many news crews were there talking to him, because we never did see them. We just see the mic. So, and then, the ghost town, the machines, it's like a ghost town. I came in, it's a ghost town. Well, that's a stupid comment to make, a ghost town. Number one flag there. That means they're dead, because nobody says a ghost town. You've been in that house for many a weeks by yourself. Many a times by yourself. Oh my God. You know, at least the last 5 weeks he was in that house. But he knew his kids were in North Carolina then. It was different. But now the kids are gone. In his head, you see, your brain knows they're dead. So you're going to be talking in past tense. So, and then switching the kids' machine on, that rain machine. It plays music or something. Puts stars on the ceiling or whatever it does. It's been a long time since I had a baby, so, and I never had one of them anyway. I put my kids to sleep with the TV on or nothing, and that's how they learn to sleep. None of this like getting habits of stuff. I never did that with my kids, but um and then, you know, he goes and cancels the school right away. Cancels the school right away. What is more important? Uh well, anyway, I thought that was a very dumb move anyway. Oh, whatever he said to the school, because apparently he said a few things. Kids won't be in today. They won't be coming anymore. We're moving. What's that got to do with anything? You don't need to explain to them that your kids ain't coming into school today. You just said, my kids ain't coming into school today. You don't even have to make any excuse. It's up to you if your kids want to come into school today. And then, Chris knew that Shanann had a doctor's appointment. He knew she had a few appointments. Well, I'm just assuming he knew, because he did know. He did know. Because Shanann stating in her messages and texts that oh, I'm not going to take Chris to the doctor's appointment with me today. I'm going to take Bella with me, or something like that. She said she's going to take one kid with her. She's going to take Bella with her today, or something like that. Or Cece, one of the kids she was going to take with her. Because if one's going to go to school, that must have been Bella. So one of the kids, she stated that she's going to take her instead of Chris. That's what she stated to either in a text or to one of her friends. Because of the little arguments they've been having, and Shannon stating he don't want the kid. It's a big problem. Now she don't want the kid. Now he's putting in her head that she feeling like she don't want the kid no more, because not because she didn't want it. It's just this way she's stating things. Like she's feeling down right now when she's seeing this. She's feeling miserable. She wished she never got pregnant now. She wished she never got pregnant now. Not because she don't want the child. It's because she just wished she never got pregnant now, because she's got pregnant for all the wrong reasons. For all the wrong reasons. And now she can't afford to be on her own with 3 kids. It's going to be hard on her. That kind of wishing she never got pregnant anymore. And she's feeling sick. So when you're feeling miserable and down, your words are going to come out like that, because you're not thinking right. She's wishing that she never believed nothing he said. But like she said, Shannon said that everything was fine before she got pregnant, and it was a planned pregnancy, and he's the one that wanted it, because he wants a boy. He wants a boy. He's hoping for a boy, and Chris knew damn well he was having a boy. So having a baby is not going to help your marriage. And seemingly having a boy was not going to change his mind. And we know the outcome on that one. So he didn't really want a baby, and he really didn't care less if he had a boy or not. And this all started stemming in when he started getting serious with this Nicole. So having another baby, and Nicole didn't really want 2 kids as it was. He's going to have 3 kids. But like Nicole stated, that she said, have your kids on the weekends or when a visitation is, and we'll see each other when you don't have your kids. Well, that sounds like she don't want to never get involved with her kids. She don't want to deal with kids, And then she does state this, well, maybe a year down the line, 6 months down the line, if we're still together, and then I'll think about, getting involved with the kids. Who says that? Who does that? If you're involved with a married man and you like him, you're going to have to set the kids too. Now, if you're not looking for a married man with little small kids, don't even get involved with them. As soon as you know, get the hell out. Because the kids are a package deal, and that's all there is to it. And if you did start living together, he's going to have the kids at the house. So that's why she said, well, I have no plans on living with him. So she threw that one in there. She had no plans of wanting to be a stepmother of any kind. Did the word stepmother come into mind? No, it didn't. I never heard her say, well, one day I might be a stepmother. She never said that. Well, I didn't hear her say that. But as you're thinking about the future, you may have used that word. Well, maybe, I might be a good stepmother to him. She never said it in that tense. She never said it in any tense. But she was watching what she did say. She was watching how she said things. She didn't want to come across like she was too eager, that this relationship had gone further than it was, or they had talked about many things about getting married. She didn't want to be that eager. Do you know what I mean? She didn't want to sound out like that was the way they were going. But you know what, guys? If you're in a relationship because you love the sex and they give you good sex and you're compatible that way, that doesn't mean you're going to be compatible another way, because this Nicole was just as bossy, and we know the way she talks in these videos, She's the bossy one. She wants to be in charge. And you could see where that relationship was going. She wasn't even mutual about anything. It seems to be that she was planning out his daily routine. She was saying what's best for him, what ain't best for him. On them lines. So, why did this Chris Watts say his kids are going on a play day? I mean, all these crazy things that he said. And you know what? This Nicole seems to have known all about that. She seems to know all about. So, when you talk to guys and all these hours of their talking, because they did talk for hours and hours and hours on end. They did see each other 5 days a week. Obviously, when Shannon was in North Carolina. And they did meet on breaks. And they did talk a lot. And they called each other on the phones. And she called him a few times on the work phone. So, guys, what do you think about a few of these remarks I've made? The facts. Let's have a discussion on your thoughts on this video. And let's play nice and nice comments. It's just your opinion, and this is just a discussion. We're not agreeing to this one's right, this one didn't happen, she was never like that, he was never like that, or the NK was never like that. This is a discussion purposes only. Thank you, guys.